Hello. I am visible. Thank God. Oh dear. Um, there we go. Nice. Oh, you know what? Considering you were in 15% of the video, Inferno, I'll I'll happily give you. I'll happily give you 15% of all the revenue I received from that video. After I pay my dues to Nintendo for providing the music. Audio balance is a difficult thing. How are you? How's your evening? Let's go. All right. Nice. Getting out of crippling debt. Sounds good. Take me with you. I want to get out of crippling debt too. Oh dear. For Jax, I thought the guy hitting all of those godly hooks was the real MVP. Oh, did you see? I actually put in your perspective of that epic hook you got. I made sure to give you a fair shake. I made sure to give you a fair shake. So that everyone can see and make up their own minds on whether those hooks were godly or maybe if they needed some work. Because it's not up to me to judge. I hope you guys appreciated the video. I spent way too long on that. My content pipeline actually isn't very good right now. I'm not that good at video editing and things, but I'm learning. Like I thought I did it right in that one. Anyway, so basically I wanted to learn more. I was walking around today at the store and it occurred to me that, like, even though I've been a computer sort of enthusiast for many years and a professional software developer for 10 years and a straight A student, and I now manage a team of developers, I don't know that much about the internal workings of computers. Like, not really. Like, I know enough to know that there's a depth of knowledge that I just don't have right now. And one of the things I sort of wanted to do for content was, well, not just for content, but for life, was to learn more things, specifically about computers. So that people can see sort of how learning works, because I'm interested in it. Because yeah, this is what I want to do. So I just wanted to spend maybe a couple of hours learning about RAM, because I don't know much about it, and I thought it'd be fun to learn about. So I don't think the stream's going to be too engrossing for people who like video games, but who knows. So when I learn stuff, it's mostly a bunch of reading and getting learning objectives and taking notes and essentially collecting. You know, RAM is just a topic that I sort of... Why RAM? It's just sort of a mysterious thing to me. Like, because when you look at a RAM stick, it's like a series of black boxes, quite literally black boxes. And it doesn't seem obvious to me why these black boxes are fast. So this is more into like learning objectives, right? Because what I wanted to learn is why is RAM fast? What makes fast RAM? What is RAM? How does RAM work? And what goes into RAM MFT to make it expensive or cheap? Well, I know what RAM feels like. I have touched a stick of RAM before. Anyway, I thought RAM was a relatively simple topic, so like it shouldn't be too complicated. But also I feel like there's a depth to the topic where if we learn about RAM, how can I apply this knowledge to software? Is it possible? Alright, definitely. But I think for around $80. Let's see. How much does RAM cost? Ooh, ramp. Who cares about that? What's the cheapest stick of RAM we can buy? Oh, here we go. Alright, for $23, you can find out what RAM tastes like. How tasty is silicon? This is what I need to know. Anyway, so a good learning objective whenever you're learning something is probably be able to explain RAM to a 10-year-old. Okay. So let's learn about RAM. Obviously, Wikipedia makes you an instant expert in whatever topic you want to do. But it is good to... Wikipedia is essentially a literature review. No, keep trolling all you want. I'm pretty sure blue tastes like blueberry, red tastes like strawberry, green tastes like lime, and then lemon tastes like yellow. So if you keep your tongue on the light while it's in operation, you should get a really tangy sensation. Me too. But yeah, I guess part of why I learned stuff is because, like, when I was young, I used to play the Y game a lot. I was a really annoying kid. And I always used to win the Y game because it's really easy. You just keep saying Y, and the adult runs out of the adult runs out of answers. But I was never satisfied with the actual, like, when the adults were giving me like the proper answers at like the start of the game. I was never truly satisfied with the answers I was getting, and that really caused me to want to deep dive on various topics. And it's curious because I realized that one of the things about working professionally is that the intellectual curiosity that you have when you're younger, it disappears once you get comfortable in your professional career and you start sort of getting into the flow and the motion of like what you do day to day, because you just don't need the knowledge. And it's sort of sad because I think it's better to continuously exercise your brain's ability to learn and retain information. Because in my opinion, I just opened paint on that. I want true paint. In my opinion, the human brain and then we zoom into this. The human brain is basically made of neural pathways. So, how to use body is one set of neural pathways. Hell yeah. How to talk to people is one neural pathway. Short term, long term. And what happens when we, there's also how to do job. Now, the issue with working as a professional is that this how to job, like when you're doing job for multiple years on end and you do it every day for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, whatever, you get really good at how to job. And the issue is that your brain actually only has so much capacity on how to do all of these things because your brain's only so large and it has so many neural circuits and whatever. Good, tell them they're wrong. Man, just link into the stream. We can get more cats in the chat. Basically, how to job actually starts becoming more powerful, and it starts to borrow, like if we think about these neural circuits as like little blocks, so long-term memory might have like 6,000 or 7,000 blocks in it, whatever. How to job will start stealing blocks of like long-term memory, because long-term memory is not being practiced every day. Short-term memory is not being practiced every day. And so the more you focus on your job, the worse you get at everything else. Unless, of course, your job involves physical labor, then how to use body to do job, you know, you'll sort of get that. But that's my overall opinion on how the brain works. You need to train your brain to do stuff. Oh, there is no limit. The brain just strengthens the more used pathways and lessens the less used one. Yeah. So in my conception, there's learning is an activity. Like sitting down and being able to nut something out and just learn it is an activity. And it's something you have to know how to do. And if you don't practice the actual act of learning, then you'll lose the actual act of learning. Um, so lessening the less used pathways is sort of what that would be. So like, as a software developer, I can honestly say I'm no better now as a software developer than I was 3 years ago. I don't think I'm actually getting better as a developer. I'm certainly solving different problems, and the problems I'm solving are very difficult. But there's so much about the computer that's mysterious to me. Like the computer itself is this amazing architecture of tens of thousands of hours of professional development. And it just seems so sad that like this thing that I spend so much time on, there's so much I don't know about it. What are the 2 times where it calls non-used pathways? I'm actually curious. Birth 5 years and adult. Fuck you, pathways. Get stomped. Anyway. So my general process for learning how RAM works was going to be essentially, I'm going to read the Wikipedia article. And you know exactly how to get clipped. I'm going to clip that. I'm gonna quote my friend Henfono. He said this. 2023, and he's right and you're wrong. Okay, so let's learn about RAM. The RAM stands for random access memory. Form of computer memory that can be read and changed in any order, typically used to store data and machine code. A random access memory device allows data items to be read in almost the same amount of time, irrespective of the physical location of data inside memory. Alright, defending my diagram. My diagram is a mental model. I have mental models for a lot of things. The mental model doesn't map directly onto reality. The mental model doesn't map onto reality, but it's like the way I think about something. Like something that I've found in myself to be true and something that I feel is correct more than like actual reality. That's my mental model. If you don't like it, get your own. Oh, thank you, Quajax. Now, the same amount of time irrespective of the physical location of data. In contrast with other direct access data storage media, such as hard disks and tapes, where time to read and write data varies significantly depending on the physical locations of a recording medium due to mechanical limitations such as media rotation, speeds, and arm movement. RAM is multiplexing and demultiplexing circuitry. I love being wrong with extra steps. Being wrong with extra steps. So one thing I'll say is like being a professional. Thank you. But I've got one more tangent. Because you're making me tangentialize. Being a professional, it's like there's a weird moment, I think, in everyone's professional career where your boss doesn't know what to do. Your boss's boss doesn't know what to do. The people organizing your time don't know what to do. The CEO is depending on you to just fix it. And a senior developer who should know what to do says, I'm not too sure about that. And then everybody looks at you. And that moment when everybody looks at you, if you say something in that moment, you're the expert. And that's happened to me. It happened to me on a payroll system, actually. Yeah. And I think this happens to everybody. Like, everybody will have this moment in their professional career, especially as a software developer, where you go from the person learning to being the expert in the room. And it's very chilling, because at that point, sort of, you're the MVP. Like, the company lives or dies on this feature based on your ability and knowledge. That's why learning is important. I don't know why I was talking about this. It's just interesting, and I think you need to prepare for that, for like that moment. What's multiplexing circuitry? Multiplexer. In electronics, a multiplexer is a data selector. A device that selects between analog and digital input signals and forwards the electrical input to a single output line. Oh yeah, so this is a choice. What's a demux? Big brain, big brain. Multiple analog or digital signals are combined into one signal over a shared medium. The aim is to share a scarce resource, a transmission medium, in several telephone calls, may be used with one wire. Okay, so that's a demux. Yeah, so this is... So I can select, and then that goes into the latch. Oh, here we go. Interesting. A demux splits the single data stream into the original multiple signals. That's cool. So all of these things are going to share the one wire. RAM contains muxing and demuxing circuitry to connect the data lines to address storage for reading and writing the entry. More than one bit of storage is accessed by the same address. And RAM devices often have multiple data lines that are said to be 8-bit or 16-bit, etc. (16-bit RAM). Interesting. In today's technology, RAM takes the form of an IC chips with metal oxide semiconductor memory cells. RAM is normally associated with volatile types of memory, where stored information is lost if power is removed. Two main types of volatile random access semiconductor memory are static and dynamic. Non-volatile RAM has also been developed, and all types of non-volatile memories allow random access for read, but either do not allow write operations or have other kinds of limitations on them. This includes most types of ROM and a type of flash memory called NOR flash. Use of semiconductor RAM dated back to 65, blah blah blah. 16-bit SP5 SRAM for System 360 Model 95. MOS memory based on MOS transistors. MOS stands for metal oxide semiconductor. Was developed in the 1960s and was the basis of early semiconductors. MOSFET. A type of transistor. Okay, so the transistor is the thing which is muxing and demuxing. dioxide semiconductor structure. Growing a layer of silicon dioxide on a silicon substrate. Okay. A cross-section of an MOSFET. Alright. I should stop jumping around. Ooh, memory cells. Ooh, that's right. Okay. So one address is going to hold several bits, which will turn into a byte. And that's managed through the muxing and demuxing to go onto the bus. Early computers used relays, mechanical counters, or delay lines for main memory functions, which could reproduce data in the order it was written. Drum memory could be expanded at relatively low cost. Latches built out of vacuum tubes, triodes, and later transistors were used for smaller and faster memory such as registers. Blah blah blah. The Williams tube, 1947. Wow, 1947. That's crazy. I wonder what it looks like. The Williams tube depends on an effect called secondary emission that occurs on CRTs when the electron beam strikes the phosphor, eliminates the beam energy above a given threshold and causes electrons to be struck out of the phosphor. These electrons travel a short distance. The resulting charge bubble remains on the surface for a fraction of a second as electrons flow back. Lifetime depends on the electrical resistance of the phosphor. So that's memory. So these are the ones and zeros to create the number. I wonder how big the numbers are. Interesting. So those are all bits. Okay. It's crazy. Memory used to... This you used to be able to see memory. Like you used to actually be able to see your memory. Like this. It's nuts. Okay. I don't care about this. I don't care about MOSFET. You mentioned the MOSFET. Led to the development of MOS memory by Mr. Schmidt in '64. In addition to higher speeds, MOS semiconductors were cheaper, and there was a silicon gate invented in '68. Integrated bipolar SRAM was invented by Norman in '63. It's followed by that in '64. SRAM became an alternative to magnetic core memory. 6 MOS transistors for each bit of data. DRAM allowed replacement of a 4 or 6 transistor latch. A single transistor for each memory bit. Had to be periodically refreshed every few milliseconds before the charge could leak away. Okay, so DRAM. So you'd have a 4 to 6 transistor latch circuit, and then magically you could replace that with 1 transistor per bit. That's crazy. It greatly increased the memory density at the cost of volatility. Data was stored in the tiny capacitance of each transistor. It had to be periodically refreshed every few milliseconds. On the CMOS, on the clock. So the calculator used a form of capacitive bipolar DRAM, storing 180 bits of data in discrete memory cells. While it offered higher speeds than magnetic core memory, bipolar DRAM could not compete with the lower price of the then-dominant magnetic core memory. MOS technology is the basis for modern DRAM. It was working on MOS memory while examining characteristics of MOS technology. He found it was capable of building capacitors, and that storing a charge or no charge on the MOS capacitor could represent the 1 and 0 of a bit, while the MOS transistor could control writing the charge to a capacitor. SDRAM, Synchronous Dynamic Random Access Memory. Synchronous Dynamic was developed by Samsung Electronics. The first commercial SDRAM chip was the Samsung 2000, which had a memory capacity of 16 megabits. It was introduced by Samsung in 1992. Okay. The first commercial double data rate SDRAM memory chip was Samsung's 64 megabit DDR SDRAM chip. Graphical. How do I do this? So it's graphics, double data rate, synchronous dynamic, random access memory. Jesus. DDR SG-RAM, which was first released by Samsung as a 16-bit memory chip in 1998. The two widely used forms of modern RAM are static RAM and dynamic RAM. In static RAM, a bit of data is stored using the state of 6 transistor memory cell. Typically using 6 MOSFETs. And the MOSFET is okay. The MOSFET is this thing. Move to operation, got a threshold. Yep. That's what's inside the MOSFET. Ooh, it's complicated. Development clean rooms, whatever. Okay, we have a 6 transistor memory cell. It's a memory cell. The memory cell is the fundamental building block of computer memory. The memory cell is an electronic circuit that stores 1 bit of binary information, and it must be set to store a logical 1 and reset to store a logical 0. Its value is maintained until it is changed by the set-reset process. The value in the memory cell can be accessed by reading it. Different memory cell architectures have been used, including core memory and bubble memory. Today, the most common memory architecture is MOS memory, which consists of MOSFETs as flip-flops, along with MOS capacitors for certain kinds of RAM. A type of flip-flop circuit typically implemented using MOSFETs. Okay. Logical circuits without memory cells are called combinational, meaning the output depends on the present input. The MOS memory cell. The invention of the MOSFET, also known as the MOS transistor, enables the practical use of semiconductors as memory cell storage, a function previously served by magnetic cores. The first modern memory cells were introduced in '64, and Mr. Smith first designed the 64-bit p-channel MOS. SRAM has 6 transistor cells, where DRAM has 1. And DRAM sounds amazing. Okay. This form of RAM is more expensive to produce, so SRAM is more expensive than DRAM, obviously. It is generally faster and requires less dynamic power than DRAM. In modern computers, SRAM is used as cache memory, but DRAM stores a bit of data using a transistor and capacitor pair. Yeah, it'd be a MOSFET and a MOS capacitor because you have to hold the one somewhere, which together comprise a DRAM cell. The capacitor holds a high or low charge, 1 or 0 respectively. The capacitor holds a high or low charge, and the transistor acts as a switch that lets the control circuitry on the chip move the capacitor state or change it. Both static and dynamic RAM are considered volatile. Their state is lost when power is removed. By contrast, ROM stores data by permanently enabling or disabling selected transistors, such that the memory cannot be altered. Writable variants of ROM, such as EEPROM and NOR flash, share properties of both ROM and RAM, enabling data to persist. Hang on. By contrast, read-only memory stores data by permanently enabling or disabling selected transistors. So, which one of these have the circuit on it? This one. So, in a ROM chip, the way ROM works, the way a Game Boy cartridge works, is how much memory in a Game Boy cartridge? Whatever. Ah, useless. Let's see if Reddit has the answer. Okay. Wait, that edition? Memory. (32 kilobytes of external game pack ROM. 16 kilobytes is switchable. So 32,000 kilobytes times 8. 256,000 transistors is inside of a Game Boy cartridge. So there are 256,000 transistors in here to create the ROM, and each of them is selected or deselected to create game data. Game data includes graphics, sound, and programming logic. Interesting. Permanently enabling or disabling selected transistors such that the memory cannot be altered. It's interesting. Writing variants of ROM share properties of both ROM and RAM. And does resist without power to be updated and without requiring special equipment. ECC memory, which can be either SRAM or DRAM, includes special circuitry to detect and or correction random faults in the stored data using parity bits or error correction codes. Memory cannot be altered. Interesting. I wonder how they did that. Blah blah blah. The desired memory contents are furnished by the customer. Blah, blah, blah. In ROM with transistors in a normal configuration using a photomask. Interesting. Okay. So, RAM is made of MOSFETs. No. Ah, I did it again. RAM. It's RAM. RAM. Double data rate, dynamic random access memory. CPU cache. Faster. This one requires one MOSFET. But higher power usage. MOSFET. Metal oxide transistor. I think it's silicon. Can be switched to mux electric input. Stores a 1 or 0. There are 356,000 in our Game Boy cartridge. RAM was revolutionized in the 60s by the invention of the MOSFET. Semiconductor. Metal oxide semiconductor. Field effect transistor. In 59. At Bell Labs. Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. It's a circuit. Where's my snap? There it is. Why is SRAM faster? It feels like it wouldn't be. That capacitor ground. Is it faster because there's no capacitor? The capacitor adds slowness. With the charge and decharge rate of the capacitor, yeah, it goes on this slower than light decline, right? So yeah, you can make fast memory, but if you're storing your shit in a capacitor, you're like fucked. You have to not do this. You definitely want a circuit that just consists of transistors. But then it magically holds the charge somewhere in here. It must hold it in VDD. Cool. Hang on. Hang on. Alright, here we go. Alright. We got a template. What's Virgin about SD about DDRM? I'm glad. Alright. 24 is name, and I need some Lucida console. Where's my Lucida console? There you go. Give me some 48. Has capacitors. Slower than light discharge. Requires more power.
Tell me you love me.
Bit line. Word line. WTF. And use this FETs. Gives answer immediately. Doesn't wait around for capacitance. Doesn't need no ohms. Requires less power. Beautiful. Oh, beautiful. All right, I understand the difference between SRAM and DRAM. Has 1 billion different types. Alright, what are we doing? What are we learning about? Why is RAM fast? Well, what makes RAM fast is the lack of capacitor. But I don't actually know. I mean, RAM's fast because MOSes just switch really fucking fast. That's probably the answer. So the memory cell is a fundamental building block of computing memory. Memory cell is an electronic circuit that stores 1 bit of binary information. It must be set to store logical 1 or logical 0. Its value is maintained or stored until it is charged by the set reset process. The value in the memory cell can be accessed by reading it. In SRAM, the memory cell is a flip-flop circuit. SRAM requires very low power when not being accessed, but it's expensive and has low storage density. DRAM is based around the capacitor. However, the charge in the capacitor slowly leaks away. Oh, well. Leaks. It must be refreshed periodically. Because of this refresh process, DRAM uses more power, but it can achieve greater storage densities and lower unit costs compared to SRAM. To be useful, it must be readable and writable. Multiplexing and demuxing circuitry is used to select memory cells. Typically, a RAM device has a set of address lines, and for each combination of bits, a set of memory cells are activated. Always have a memory capacity that is a power of 2. Yep. Several memory cells share the same address. For example, a 4-bit wide RAM chip has 4 memory cells for each address. The width of the memory and that of the microprocessor are different. A 32-bit microprocessor, 8 4-bit RAM chips will be needed. That makes sense. More addresses are needed than can be provided by a device. External multiprocessors to the device can activate. Okay. So, what are recent developments in RAM? Non-volatile RAM, so several new types of non-volatile RAM are now under development. Carbon nanotubes. What? The fuck is a carbon nanotube? A carbon nanotube is a tube made of carbon with a diameter of nanometer range. Single-wall carbon nanotubes have diameters of around 0.5 to 2 nanometers, about 100,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. There you go. So there's a thing called graphene. Graphene. Allotrope of carbon, so a single layer of atoms arranged in a hexagonal lattice. Cool. Okay. So, non-volatile RAM can preserve data while powered down. Carbon nanotubes tunnel magnetoresistance. Wow, it's cool. Amongst the first generation MRAM, a 128 kilobit chip was manufactured with a 0.18 nanometer or micrometer in the summer of 2003. Infineon Technologies unveiled a 16 megabyte prototype. There are 2 second generation techniques currently in development: thermal assisted switching and spin transfer torque. Nintendo. Nintendo built a functioning carbon nanotube memory prototype, a 10 gigabyte array in 2004. Since 2006, solid-state drives with capacities exceeding 256 kilohertz have become available. This development has started to blur the definition between traditional random access memory and disks. Yeah, sure. Well, I want to learn more about Infineon Technology. What are you doing? Infineon. Oh, you're making semiconductors. It's MRAM. Is MRAM faster? Data in MRAM is not stored as an electrical charge, but by magnetic storage elements. I mean, mean, eventually a wire's gonna have to go hot. Yeah. As DRAM sees decrease in size. Yep. In contrast, MRAM never requires a refresh. MRAM requires only slightly more power to write than read, no charge voltage. Dynamic is limited by the rate at which the charge stored in the cells can be drained or stored. MRAM operation is based on measuring voltages rather than charge or current, so there's less settling time needed. MRAM devices with access times on the order of 2 nanoseconds. Somewhat better than even the most advanced DRAMs built on much newer processors. A team at the German... I can't say that. Have demonstrated MRAM devices with 1 nanosecond settling time. Better than the currently accepted theoretical limits of DRAM. The difference compared to flash are far more significant. Write speeds as much as thousands of times faster. Okay. For the perpendicular STT MRAM, the switching time is largely determined by the thermal stability, theta, as well as the write current. A larger theta would require a larger write current for longer pulse. The only current memory technology that easily competes with MRAM at a comparable density is SRAM. Yep. Although MRAM is not quite as fast as SRAM, it's close enough to be interesting even in this role. Given its much higher density, the CPU designer may be inclined to use MRAM to offer a much larger but somewhat slower cache, rather than a smaller but faster one. First 200mm 1MB MRAM, fabricated by Motorola, June 2001. That's really interesting. Okay, let's have a look at this.
Hello
is MRAM?
and welcome again to Microchip's Memory Technology Series. So, what's an MRAM? MRAM stands for Magneto-Resistive Random Access Memory. Yes, it's based on magnets, and it's random access. You can read and write and jump around the address locations symmetrically, which means you can read a byte just as fast as you can write a byte. Think DRAM and SRAM here. On the other hand, asymmetrical memories are memories like flash and double EEPROM that take much longer to write, let's say, than to read. And MRAM is non-volatile, which means the memory content is not lost when the power is turned off. And writing this memory doesn't damage it. You can write it as many times as you want. So, MRAM is basically a DRAM or SRAM that doesn't lose its data when VDD goes away. Sounds pretty perfect, right? Well, our industry has been working on MRAM technology for over 20 years, and frankly, many research houses have given up on MRAM and moved on to other materials. We'll explain why that is near the end of this video. First, let's show you how it works. Okay, so we've all played with magnets, so let's start with that experience. Here is a magnet with the top labeled north, just like our planet, and the bottom is labeled south. Inside, what makes magnetic material work is the characteristic that the electrons spin in a common direction. So with north being up and looking down from the top of the magnet, these electrons are spinning clockwise. Now, let's flip the magnet upside down, just so that south is now up. And now, looking down from the top, the electrons are spinning counterclockwise. We've all taken two magnets and touched them end to end. If they are both north-south, so that the north and south ends touch, we feel a magnetic attraction. But if we force our two magnets to touch north to north or south to south, we can feel with our fingers a magnetic push or resistance to that touching. The same result happens if the magnets are used as part of an electric circuit. If we connect them north-south, north-south, then resistance is pretty low. If we connect them south-north, north-south, then relatively, the resistance is higher. So
Yeah.
now, let's take this differing resistance and apply it to MRAM. MRAM uses two different magnetic materials. One material has a fixed state characteristic, like the magnets we've been playing with. The other material has a free state characteristic, which means that the electrons can spin either way. As long as they're all spinning in the same direction, they'll be magnetic. Here, let's run an electric current across the top of our free state magnet and run a perpendicular current down here coming out of the page. And the electrons will align their
Yeah,
spin
gotcha.
to
So you
follow
can
these
measure.
currents. Now, let's reverse the electric currents and run this one right to left and this one into the page. And the free state magnet's electron
So basically, you'll be able to measure resistance in the electrical circuit, and the measurement of resistance is all you actually need to determine on or off.
again align with these currents and all spin the other direction. Now, turn the current off completely. The electrons just keep spinning in that last direction forever until the next big current comes along to flip them back the other way.
Yeah, forever.
So here's an MRAM memory bit. The fixed state magnet and the free state magnet are sandwiched together here and tied
Mhm.
electrically together with conductive material. To write the bit to a 1, current is run left to right through the bit line and perpendicularly out of the page on this right word line. To write a 0, it's right to left on the bit line and into the page on this right word line. Once the write is done, the current's turned off. To read the bit, this read word line turns on this bottom transistor, and current flows on this red line up through the bit. Here, both magnets have the same spin, so resistance is low, and the bit is read as a 1. And over here, the magnets have opposite spins, so resistance is higher, and the bit is read as a 0. So, why hasn't MRAM taken over the world? Well, these free state magnets flip with current or with other big external magnets. So the next memory bits over in the X or Y direction, they'll need big currents to get programmed written. So near bit contamination is a design concern. You have to keep a little space between these guys. Shrinking the array smaller and smaller is going to be tough. This has been a cost problem, and MRAM densities so far have been stuck below about 8 megabits, and at much higher price points than Flash, DRAM, EEPROM, even SRAM. Engineers will only design it in if they can't figure out a way to use one of the cheaper memories for their application. And big external magnets, think electric motors. These can possibly flip a magnetic bit and mess up the content. So an MRAM chip usually has a protective cover embedded in the plastic package and extending over the whole memory. And MRAM datasheets have to specify how much external magnetic energy that memory can tolerate before data is changed or the part is damaged. That's something that
Sure.
concerns a few engineers.
Gotcha. Interesting. That's the CPU chip. An important reason for this disparity is limited communication bandwidth beyond chip boundaries, which is also referred to as the bandwidth wall. CPU speed improved at an annual rate of 55%, while off-chip memory resistance Given these trends, it is expected that memory latency will become an overwhelming bottleneck in computer performance. The reason for the disparity is the enormous increase in the size of memory since the start of the PC revolution in the 1980s. Originally, PCs contained less than 1 megabyte of RAM, which had a response time of 1 CPU clock cycle. Today's CPUs often still have a megabyte of zero wait state cache memory. Yep. The transistor leakage current increases, leading to excess power consumption and heat. Secondly, advantages of higher clock speeds are in part negated by memory latency. RC delays in signal transmissions were noted that clock rate of SBC. A different concept is the processor memory performance gap. Solid-state hard drives have continued to increase in speed, closing the gap between RAM and hard disk speed. RAM continues to be an order of magnitude faster. With single-line DDR4, and GDDR is even faster. Fast, cheap, non-volatile solid state, normally performed by RAM, such as holding certain data for immediate availability in server farms. 1 terabyte of SSD storage can be had for $200. Timeline. So the bit capacity of SRAM, since 95 is a lot. There's DRAM. It's not SDRAM. 15. It's GRAM and HBM. It's like that. So what makes DDR RAM? Oh, I can understand what is RAM. A bunch of MOSFETs. Basically, you get all these multiplexing transistors together, and then they can store a charge. Or you can multiplex your switch into a capacitor, and that'll be a 1 or a 0, which will give you 1 bit of data. You combine multiple bits of data to create a byte, and then you read those bytes and act on those bytes in your program. Oh, that's also how RAM works. What goes into RAM manufacturing to make it expensive or cheap? It's basically all about muxing and demuxing. What goes into RAM manufacture to make it expensive or cheap? Well, RAM manufacturing consists of making your transistors smaller, so you have to learn how to make a transistor smaller first, and you have to tightly pack them all together. And then you can do your read, and you can read the address that you want, which will give you maybe 4 bits of data, which your CPU will then interpret. How can I apply this knowledge to software? Now, SRAM is faster than DRAM purely because of capacitance. Cool. It's a hybrid memory cube. Chip creep. Read mostly memory. Sounds funny. HPC RAM for through silicon guys. TSV stacked DRAM memory, competing with the incompatible rival interface, HBM. Hybrid Memory Cube was co-developed by Samsung Electronics. What the hell is this? Multi-channel DRAM is a 3D stacked DRAM that's used in the Intel Xeon Phi processor. It's a version of the Hybrid Memory Cube. The many cores in the Xeon Phi processor, along with their associated vector processing units, enable them to consume many more gigabytes per second than traditional DRAM DIMMs can supply. The multi-channel part of the MCDRAM reflects the cores having many core channels available to access the MCDRAM that processes in physical placement. The memory can be partitioned at boot time. Interesting. Okay, let's read through these articles, because I do have a few coffee articles. This is what it allows. So, Firstly, how stuff works, how RAM works. RAM is computer memory. Surf the internet, quickly switch to loading an application. RAM is considered random access. Only access sequentially. If the data is not in the current location, each memory cell is checked till the data is found. RAM is your computer short-term memory. Sneezy. In most common forms of computer memory, dynamic random access memory is a transistor. Yep. 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 I know how capacitance works, whatever. Memory cells are made up of bits arranged in two-dimensional grid. Yep. So we pull up the RAM like that. Memory cells are etched into a silicon wafer. DRAM works by sending a charge through the appropriate column to activate the transistor on each. Yep. The time necessary is expected in nanoseconds. A memory chip rating of 70 nanoseconds means it takes 70 nanoseconds. Memory cells alone would be worthless without some way to get information in and out of them, so the memory cells have a whole support infrastructure. These circuits perform functions such as identifying each row and column, row address select and column address select, keeping track of the refresh sequence, reading and restoring the signal, telling a cell whether it should take a charge or not, other functions of the memory controller include a series of tasks that include the dynamic type, speed, and amount of memory, checking for errors. Yep. What is DDR-RAM? So SD-RAM works by staying on the row containing the requested bit and moving rapidly through the columns, reading each bit as it goes. The idea is that most of the time, the data needed by the CPU will be in sequence. Extended data out. Okay. Fast page mode. Direct dynamic random access memory is the original form of DRAM. It waits through the entire process of locating a bit of data by column and row and reading that bit before it starts the next bit. Maximum transfer rate to L2 cache is approximately 176 megabytes per second. Extended data out does not wait for all of the processing of the first bit before continuing on to the next one. As soon as the address of the first bit is located, EDO-RAM will begin looking for the next bit. SD-RAM is 5% faster than EDO-RAM. Now double data rate, like SD-RAM, it has a high bandwidth, meaning greater speed. Its transfer rate is lots. It advanced 3 subsequent generations. These standards are set by the joint Ooh. DDR5 JEDEC in 2020. RAM manufacturer Micron believes the new standard will increase performance by 87% when compared to the DDR4 module. JEDEC, Solid State Technology Association, a global leader in the development of standards for the microelectronics industry, today announced the publication of the widely anticipated DDR5 SD-RAM standard. The standard addresses the demanding standards demand requirements being driven by intensive cloud and enterprise data center applications. Developers have twice the performance. Nice. Oh, it costs $370 to find out this spec. Okay. DDR5 was designed to meet increasing needs for efficient performance in a wide range of applications, including client system and high-performance servers. DDR5 incorporates memory technology that leverages and extends industry know-how and experience developing previous DDR memories. The standard is architected to enable scaling memory performance without degrading channel efficiency at higher speeds, which has been achieved by doubling the burst length to BL16 and bank count from 32 to 16. This revolutionary architecture provides better channel efficiency and higher application level performances that will enable continued evolution of next generation computing systems. In addition, the DDR5 DIMM has two 40-bit fully independent subchannels in the same module for efficiency and improved reliability. New features such as the DFE, Decision Feedback Equalization, enable I/O scalability for higher bandwidth and improved performance. DDR5 supports double bandwidth as compared to its predecessor DDR4 and is expected to be launched at 4.8 gigabits per second, 50% higher than DDR4's end-of-life speed of 3.2 Gbps. Additional features include on-die ECC, power efficiency enabled by VDD going from 1.2 to 1.1. I mean, this sounds amazing, but like, with several new performance, reliability, and power saving modes implemented in this design, DDR5 is ready to support and enable next generation technologies. The tremendous dedication and effort on part of more than 150 JEDEC member companies worldwide has resulted in a standard that addresses all aspects of the industry. High-performance computing requires memory that can keep pace with the ever-increasing demands of today's processors. With the publication of the DDR5 standard, AMD can better design, blah blah blah. You know what? I hope the CTO is like a cool guy. Joe Macri. King of RAM. By working together on uh-huh. 300 member companies. The publications and standards generated by JEDEC committees are accepted throughout the world. Cool. DDR5 is prepared to... DDR5's coming up. This is new. This is good. Maybe about DDR5. With the fresh release of DDR5 support in Alder Lake and potentially AMD's Zen 4 chips, we're now entering a junction where you'll need to decide what memories are for you. What are we waiting for? These episodes. What's Micron say? I don't like this article. Micron, DDR5. Scalable memory. Micron delivers. Micron DDR5 DRAM. Scalable memory for growing processor core counts. Data is everywhere. Transforming data into insight. Oh my god, I'm not watching this. This is so nonsense. Can you give me like a boring nerd? Tell me what this is, please? I want a boring nerd. DDR5 spec. Whatever. I don't. No, shut up. I don't care about any of you. Nonsense. Alright. One 1.1 is really interesting. What's the clock rate? The operating temperature is 95°C. Memory technology. What the bar catalog is. So for Xeons, for Epics. Podcast. Ooh. Boost HPC workloads. Advantages of migrating to DDR5. Nice spreadsheet. Alright, let's go. DDR5 is the next evolution of DRAM, bringing a robust list of new features geared to increase reliability, availability, and serviceability, reduce power, and dramatically improve performance. Some of the key features differences between DDR4 and DDR5 are as follows. Jesus, quite a lot. Increased performance and bandwidth with a higher data rate. Lowest power. Improved voltage margins. Enables larger monolithic devices. Keeps the internal core clock low. So it pre-features 16M. Wow, I don't know what any of this means. The bus inversion. Man, how are we even using DDR4? DDR4 is dog water compared to DDR5. Let's be real. Oh, we've been bamboozled. Everyone on DDR4. Your computer will be obsolete. You'll no longer be able to run Doom. Alright. Rhombus Dynamic Random Access Memory is a radical departure from the previous DRAM architecture. Designed by Rhombus, RDRAM is a Rhombus inline memory module, which is similar. What makes RDRAM so different is its use of a special high-speed data bus called the Rhombus channel. Okay. Since they operate at such high speeds, they generate more heat. Rhombus chips are fitted with a heat spreader, which look like one thin wafer. Cool. Ah, it's interesting. Credit card memory. PC Mesia. Yep. VRAM. Yep, whatever. First that's what proprietary. Then came SIM. And then came DIM. Microdims. RAM is the most important factor in computer performance next to the CPU. If you don't have enough, adding RAM can make a big difference to getting a new CPU. If your system responds slowly, you need to have more RAM. If you're running Windows 10, Microsoft recommends 1GB as the minimum RAM and 2GB for 64 bits. If you're upgrading to Windows 11, you need 4GB. Linux has a reputation for working happily on systems with low system RAM, including RAM. Xubuntu, one popular low-end thing, with 52 megs of RAM. No matter what operating system you use, remember that if you do computer-aided design, you'll need more RAM. You should probably invest in higher-end graphics cards if you want to do any of the following: play realistic games, edit videos, create 3D graphics, work in a high-res full-color environment, design full-color illustrations. When shopping for video cards, blah blah blah. How to install RAM, who cares? Sometimes. How to add RAM to your desktop. Alright, that's enough. Enough how stuff works. JDC, that's really interesting. Although it doesn't tell me how this stuff is really made. Like, you put all the FETs together. Okay, Silicon Power 8GB UDIMM. Runs on a clock of 2666. DDR4 single desktop memory. Double data rate, how does that work? Theoretically, you multiply the number of dual channel memory in a PC system architecture uses two 64-bit data channels. Dual channel should not be confused with double data rate. Quad data rate. QDR RAM. Type of static RAM computer memory that can transfer up to 4 words of data in each clock cycle. So 4 words per clock. So QDR SRAM on both rising and falling edges will transfer 4 words at once. Why aren't we all on QDR? QDR SRAM? Is QDR only for SRAM? Doesn't tell me much. QDR SRAM was designed for high-speed communication and networking applications, where data throughput is more important than cost. Power efficiency or desktop. The technology was created by Micron and Cypress, later followed by IDT, then NEC. QDR2 memory is currently being designed by Cypress Semiconductor for radiation-hardened environments. Wait, most SRAM manufacturers construct QDR and DDR SRAM using the same physical silicon, differentiated by post-manufacturing selection, blowing a fuse on a chip. Wow. So double data rate. In computing, DDR describes a computer bus that transfers data on the rising and falling edges of the clock signal. This is also known as double pumped, dual pumped, and double transition. The term toggle mode is used in the context of NAND flash memory. The simplest way to design an electronic circuit is to perform one transfer per full cycle. This requires that the clock signal change twice per transfer, while the data lanes change at most once per transfer. When operating at a high bandwidth, signal integrity limitations constrain the clock frequency. By using both edges of the clock, the data signals operate with the same limiting frequency, doubling the data transmission rate. This technique has been used for microprocessor frontside buses, Ultra 3 SCSI, expansion bus AGP PCI-X, graphics memory, main memory, and hypertransport. DDR should not be confused with dual channel, which each memory channel accesses two RAM modules simultaneously. And many motherboards use both dual channel and DDR, using DDR memory in dual channel configuration. So DDR is on the clock, and that's why the motherboard has different colors for the RAM. Interesting. Describing the bandwidth of double pumped bus can be confusing. Each clock edge is referred to as a beat, with 2 beats per cycle. Technically, the hertz is a unit of cycles per second, but many people refer to the number of transfers per second. Careful usage generally talks about 500 MHz double data rate, but memory casually. DDR SDRAM popularized the technique of referring Interesting. So there's the clock. Then there's the bus. The bus Is 1 channel per read? Or 2 channel per read? So I can read 2 channels, like literally read more memory, because I've got DDR dual channel. Okay. Well, what is DDR2? How does QDR get into it? Why is RAM fast? Well, RAM's fast because we designed the circuit specifically to be electronics only up into the capacitor. Interesting. When all I/O signals are counted, QDR is not twice as fast as DDR, but is 100% efficient when reads and writes are interleaved. In contrast, is most efficient when only one request type is continuously repeated, i.e. only reads. When write cycles are interleaved with read cycles, one or more cycles are lost for bus turnaround to avoid data contention, which reduces bus efficiency. Okay. Memory latency is the time between initiating a request until it is retrieved by a processor. With data are not in a processor's cache, it takes long to obtain them. Latency should not be confused for memory bandwidth, which is measured as throughput. Interesting. Man, MRAM was really interesting actually. Interesting links. Alright, let's get some wiki pages. So, MRAM. DDR. Micron. DDR5. To EDC. What was that nonsense, Rambus? This is like RD-RAM? Yeah, Rambus. Rambus RAM. Oh, there's also concurrent Rambus RAM. Direct Rambus RAM. Anyway. Let's finish all these articles. Where's RAM? What RAM does. How RAM works. RAM's made of timing capacitor transistors. Yep. The fact that data can be lost so quickly when the charge is gone is why saving any changed data to the RAM. Can retrieve data from RAM under such circumstances. Who cares? Yep. Double data rate means all data can be transferred twice per clock. Prior to DDR4, computers were using DDR3. RAM sticks are keyed to prevent people from mixing and matching different generations, as they're incompatible. RAM comes with two types, DIMM and SODIMM. DIMM is used in desktop computers, and SODIMM is used in small devices. Well, the basics of what RAM does is very simple. There are vastly different types. Yep. Modern computers need two RAM sticks, same size to run in what's called dual channel mode. Many people claim you can exponentiate RAM, that's mostly true. Yep. If you can't get the same make of RAM, if you're overclocking, then voltages and times become important. If not, then fine. Where's RAM? Yep. What happens when you run out of RAM? Running out of RAM can lead to system slowdown. What does RAM look like? DIMM, SODIMM, RAM stick. DDR is found in desktops. GDDR, dual quad channel memory. How long it takes for a CPU to access data from RAM? Naturally, lower access time. Memory settings, blah blah blah. How much RAM do you need in your smartphone? Ideally. PCs and laptops, memory frequency can make a big difference. In most learning applications, capacity matters more than frequency or bandwidth. Fine. What's computer RAM? Why is RAM still called RAM access? Yep. Serial access memory. How much RAM is ideal? It acts as a temporary storage location, makes it possible to read files faster, improves application performance. How does RAM work? Mainboard. Memory banks to actual data storage, clocking. Memory operations in RAM are synced with clock signals. This streamlines the controller interface and removes the need for analog signal generation. It reduces the manufacturing costs for memory components. It's a burst counter. On-chip counter that stores column address information. It offers high-frequency burst access by employing sequential interleaved burst types. Most PCs let users install RAM units up to a specific capacity. A computer with more RAM reduces the number of times the CPU must read data. A slower process versus RAM access time is measured in nanoseconds, whereas storage memory access is measured in milliseconds. Interesting. That's where the quad channel comes in, actually. SRAM, DRAM, standard data output, EDO RAM, synchronous DRAM, and VRAM. Synchronizes memory rates with the clock speed of the CPU. The memory controller is aware of the precise clock cycle at which the data packet will be available. More instructions per unit of time. SDRAM transfers data slightly faster than DRAM. Rambus. I love Rambus. Rambus is my favorite. Cool. I know what muxing is. That's a DRAM chip. Okay. Fabricated by Intel in October 1970. The 1103 was the first commercially available DRAM IC, and due to its small physical size, it replaced the latter in memory applications. So the DRAM memory cell of the Intel 1103. So you had read, you had write select, so I'm going to decide to read, I'm going to decide to write, and it's going to go through some flip-flops. There's my capacitor there. Cool. Interesting. The IBM System 360 is a mainframe computer. Not interested. Flash memory. Floating gate MOSFET. A NAND flash. Okay, vertical NAND. Alright. Dynamic. The RAM. Blah blah blah. The RAM is usually arranged in a rectangular array of charged storage cells consisting of one capacitor and transistor per data bit. The figure to the right shows a simple example with a 4x4 cell matrix. Some DRAM matrices are many thousands of cells in height and width. So, data selector, the 4:1 mux. We'll go through here to grab the column that I want. And then the row address selects the row. These are my bits. These capacitors are my bits. Interesting. So somehow electricity says, I want this one. I've like come along with an address. Cool. Write to memory. Memory timing. Cell design, capacitor design. Error detection and correction. Yep. The majority of soft errors in DRAM and radiation, chiefly neurons and cosmic ray secondaries. additional circuitry that uses these bits to detect and correct soft errors. In most cases, the detection is the job of the memory controller. Sometimes the required logic is transparently implemented within the RAM chips or modules. The extra memory bits are used to record parity to do this, and then you have BCC. Parity allows the detection of single bit errors. The most common error correcting code, a sected Hamming code, allows a single bit error to be corrected and usual configuration. Cool. Yeah. Memory module embedded versions, asynchronous DRAM, principles of operation, row address strobe, column address strobe, run enable. Yep. Okay, single data rate synchronous DRAM is the original generation of SDRAM. We made a single transfer per clock cycle. And double data rate was the later development of SDRAM. Subsequent versions are numbered sequentially. A double width addresses at the clock rate uses a double data rate interface to transfer 1/2 of each clock cycle. Okay. DDR RAM. So how does DDR2 work? A DDR SDRAM interface. It's a JEDEC standard, first published in 2003. DDR2 DIMMs are either forward compatible with DDR3 or not backward compatible with DDR. In addition to double pumping the data bus, DDR2 allows higher bus speeds and requires lower power by running the internal clock at half the speed of the data bus. 4 data transfers. Wait, the two factors combine to produce a total of 4 data transfers per internal clock cycle. That's amazing. So since the DDR2 internal clock runs half the DDR external clock, the DDR2 memory operating at the same external data bus clock provide the same bandwidth but with a better latency. Alternatively, DDR2 memory operating at twice the external data bus. The best rated DDR2 memory modules are twice as fast as the best rated DDR memory modules. The maximum capacity on commercially available DDR2 DIMMs is 8 GB. Yep, more commonly there's 2 GB of RAM. DDR2 was originally introduced in the second quarter of 2003. 200 MHz and 266 MHz. Both performed worse than the original DDR spec due to a high latency. However, the original DDR technology tops out at a clock rate of around 400 megatransfers per second. Because it's DDR, so you get 2 transfers per clock. High performance DDR chips exist, but JEDEC has stated that they will not standardized. The key difference is the increase of prefetch length. In DDR SDRAM, the prefetch length was 2 bits for every bit in a word, whereas it's 4 bits in DDR2 SDRAM. During an access, 4 bits were read or written to or from a 4-bit deep prefetch queue. This queue received or transmitted its data of the data bus in 2 data bus clock cycles. awesome. What's DDR3? Yep, DDR3 is neither forward nor backwards compatible with any type of RAM. DDR3 is a DRAM interface spec. The actual DRAM arrays that store data. Primary benefit of DDR3 is its ability to transfer data at twice the rate, 8 times the speed of its internal memory arrays. Okay, how does it do that? Compared to DDR2 memory, DDR3 memory uses less power. According to JEDEC, 1.575 volts should be considered the absolute maximum, and memory stability is the foremost consideration. JEDEC states that memory modules must withstand 1.8 volts before incurring permanent damage. The prefetch buffer is 8 bursts deep. Okay. So it's all about the prefetch buffer. DDR SDRAM employs a prefetch architecture to allow quick and easy access to multiple data words located in a common physical row in memory. The prefetch architecture takes advantage of the specific characteristics of memory accesses to DRAM. Typical DRAM memory operations involve 3 phases: bitline prefetch, row access, column access. Row access is the heart of a read operation, as it involves the careful sensing of the tiny signals in DRAM memory cells. It is the slowest phase of memory operation. However, once a row is read, subsequent column accesses to that same row can be very quick. As the sense amplifiers also act as latches. For reference, a row of 1 gigabit DDR3 device row access might take 50 nanoseconds, depending on the speed of the DRAM. So, multiple reads in a row is faster than read, write, read, write. Traditional DRAM architectures have long supported fast column access to bits on an open row. For an 8-bit wide memory chip with a 2048-bit wide row, the drawback of the older fast column, in a prefetch buffer architecture, when memory access occurs, the buffer grabs a set of adjacent data words to read them out in rapid-fire sequence on the I/O pins, without the need for individual column address requests. This assumes the CPU wants adjacent data words in memory. For example, in DDR1, 2 adjacent data words will be read for each chip in the same clock cycle. Each word will then be transmitted on consecutive... Wow, this is the key. This is the key piece of knowledge. This is... That's key knowledge. That's why RAM is fast. That's why modern RAM is faster than older RAM. That's why it's a doubling effect. That's why RAM's fast. That's crazy. Why is RAM fast? Because of this. What is RAM? Yes. It's also something that makes sense. In a prefetched buffer architecture, when memory access occurs to a row, the buffer grabs a set of adjacent data words on the row and reads them out in rapid-fire sequence on the I/O pins. This assumes the CPU wants adjacent data words in memory, which in practice is very often the case. In DDR1, 2, and placed in the prefetch buffer, each word will then be transmitted on consecutive rises and fallings. Similarly, in DDR2, the 4N prefetch buffer, which is twice faster than the internal clock of DDR. Each of the words in consecutive is using the rising and falling. The prefetch buffer depth can also be thought of as the ratio between the core memory frequency and the I/O frequency. The I/Os will operate 8 times faster than the memory core. Thus, a 200 MHz memory core is combined with I/Os that each operate 8 times faster. If a memory has 16 I/Os, the total read bandwidth would be 200 MHz. Modules with multiple DRAM chips are correspondingly higher bandwidth. Each generation of SDRAM has different prefetch buffer sizes. So DDR has 2 data words per memory access. DDR2 is 4. Prefetch buffer size is 8N. So it's the 16N buffer size, enabling DDR5. Rambus! They're back! Rambus has returned! Rambus. The main villain of RAM. Rambus. Unlike DDR4, all DDR5 chips have an on-die ECC. Yep. However, this is not the same as true ECC. Yep. With actual data correction chips. Yep. I don't care what ECC. Whatever. I'm not a server. We still exist on ECC and CCC. Yep. Yep. Who cares? Each DDR5 DIMM has 2 independent channels. Earlier DIMM generations featured only a single channel and 1 command address bus, controlling the whole memory module. Both subchannels on a DDR5 DIMM each have their own CA bus, controlling 32 bits for non-ECC. For use in personal computers and servers. Wait a minute. The reduced bus width is compensated by a double minimum burst length of 16, which preserves the minimum access size of 64 bytes. The burst length of 16. Burst length of 16. More commonly known as DIMMs. Yep. As the previous memory generations, there are multiple DIMM variants for DDR5. Unbuffered memory modules directly expose the memory chip interface to the module connector. Not mechanically compatible. DDR5 DIMMs are supplied with management interface, power of 3.3. Yep. Alder Lake and Raptor Lake support DDR5 and DDR4. There are only DIMM sockets for one or the other. Yep, whatever. Can I buy DDR5? Yeah, I can. So 6.6 gigahertz means what does that mean for MTS? Oh, the speed is 6.8 MTS. That's not 6.6 megahertz. Yep. Doesn't mean anything. Exquisite craftsmanship. A beautifully crafted aluminum heatsink with a glossy electroplated surface that complements the amazing performance inside. This is completely meaningless. I hate this so much. RGB your way. Set the RGB lighting. Yeah, whatever. DDR5, VDIM, gray. It's 2x16 at 6.6 at MTS. Operating voltage is 1.4. Operating temperature is 85. Whatever. Cool. Interesting. Well, I'm getting tired. There's one more thing I want to look up. Can I use the cache? So the goal here is to use SRAM for my immediate needs rather than storing stuff in DRAM. Caching it simple, blah blah. ASP.NET Core, software methods, whatever. Yep. Using my memory cache. Yep. I'm pretty sure this uses the DRAM. Memory caching. This isn't quite what I want. I think that's the same one. In order to modify the properties, this piece allows to create new cache storage. But I want to program with cache, which is included by the CPU. Thank you for solutions. Generally regular RAM with key value pairs, yes. So system runtime caching provides access to the DRAM. There are more use cases than that. You can create a custom caching provider. For example, instead of using the default in-memory cache engine, you can create custom cache providers that store cache data in databases, in custom objects, or in the file system. Yes. But CPU cache is low-level memory that is used automatically within the CPU itself to reduce the trip to RAM. It's not actually meant to be modified by external applications. For example, the L1 instruction cache is physically next to the processing core. .NET applications are not even stored as machine code before they are run by .NET Framework. Okay. So there's the cache of the CPU. Interesting. You can write efficient code that makes CPU to use its caches in an elegant way. Specific instances which you could have encountered relate to this. How do I make code cache effectively, cache friendly, and for more cache hits? Welcome back. Hen, I will. Alright. I'll definitely make a carry god video. Don't worry, don't worry. Jeez. Did we record that video where you destroyed everybody as Tom Kench? Because that'd make a good video. That Tom Kench game is like embedded in my brain as like all-time greatest League of Legends moments. I'll need to make a graphic of like Tom Kench carrying Tristana. Are there any particular data structures one must use or avoid? Yep. Any programming constructs, code flow, any programming language, any hardware target. The caches that are reduced the number of times the CPU would stall, waiting for the memory requests to be fulfilled. There's a second effect, possibly to reduce the overall amount of data needed to be transferred. Techniques for avoiding suffering from memory fetch latency, and sometimes helps a long way. Particularly for multi-cores, more threadable, blah blah blah. Guys. Improve spatial locality. Actually, this goes in my interesting links. Tends to fit more useful data in the cache, essentially increasing the effective cache size. Tends to fit more useful data. When we have looked at various standard benchmarks, we have seen that a surprisingly large fraction of those fail to use 100% of the fetched cache lines before the cache lines are evicted. Improving. Use smaller data types. Organize your data to avoid alignment holes. Sort your struct members by decreasing size. Beware of the standard dynamic memory allocator, which may introduce holes and spread your data around in memory as it warms up. Is malloc considered harmful? New? Like, does this happen with new? What does new get turned into an IL? Make sure all adjacent data is actually used in the hot loops. Otherwise, consider breaking up data structures into hot and cold components, so the hot loops are hot data. Nice. Avoid algorithms and data structures that exhibit irregular access patterns and favor linear data structures. Hash maps? So, I can't possibly store a hash map, but maybe a memory linked list is better? Modern CPUs have more than one hardware prefetcher. They train on the misses in a cache and try to spot irregularities. For instance, after a few misses to subsequent cache lines, the hardware prefetcher will start prefetching cache lines into the cache, anticipating the application's needs. The hardware prefetcher is usually doing a good job. Your program doesn't display regular access patterns. Add prefetch instructions yourself. Regrouping instructions in such a way Memory level parallelism. To reduce the overall memory bus pressure, you have to start addressing what's called temporal locality. You have to reuse data while it still hasn't been evicted from the cache. Merging loops that touch the same data, loop fusion, and employing rerunning techniques known as tiling or blocking all strive to avoid extra memory fetches. While there are some rules of thumb for this rewrite exercise, you typically have to carefully consider loop carried data dependencies to ensure that you don't affect the semantics of the program. This is what really pays off in multi-core world, where you typically won't see much of throughput improvements after adding the second thread. Interesting. Me, why can't the compiler do it? Whatever. One classic example is to iterate a multi-dimensional array inside out. For I, for j, do something with ji. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okie dokie. My brain is gone. I am completely fried. I'm gonna play some games, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Hello everyone. I hope you all enjoyed a learning stream where we looked at some interesting stuff to learn. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe, stay well. Ciao for now.